I'd like to focus initially on one component of our election systems that I find particularly concerning: voter registration databases. The Mueller report concluded that on approximately June 2016, the Russian intelligence organization, GRU, compromised the computer network of the Illinois State Board of Elections and gained access to a database concerning information on millions of registered Illinois voters, unquote. Ms. Plunkett, in this case, the Russian hackers successfully breached the databases, but they failed to alter or to delete voting records. My question to you is, if Russian hackers had changed voting records, including deleting voters from the databases, can you describe the specific possible impacts they could have had on the election? If they had altered the databases?
Well, I mean, it would have been devastating had they altered the databases. And altering in this case could have been changing records. It could have been deleting records, which would have made it, in some cases, impossible for voters to vote, to register to vote. Voters could have been turned away. They could have inserted voters erroneously into the database that could have provided an opportunity for those who shouldn't be voting to vote. So it would have been devastating had that happened.
So thousands or tens of thousands of voters might have turned up at the polls and been turned away because there was no record of their registration.
That's correct.
Thousands of non-existent voters might have voted.
That's correct.
Thank you. Ms. Plunkett, the House-passed appropriations bill contains $600 million in funding for states. It also includes accountability measures. It requires that funding cannot be used to purchase non-qualified voting machines. The Senate's version has only $250 million with no accountability restrictions. Your written testimony emphasizes the need to replace paperless machines and implement robust post-election audits using paper ballots. Now, we saw in 2000 how one county's failure to properly maintain its CHADs or non-CHADs held up the entire country. And one county's dereliction could again conceivably hold up the entire country's election, national election. Now, I understand why some states or counties might not want to spend the money necessary to update their election machinery so they can't be hacked. But I was astounded to read recently, a couple of days ago in fact, that states are still spending large amounts of money on voting machines that are electronic, that do not have paper trails, that are unauditable and vulnerable to hacking. So my question is, aside from the obvious necessity of appropriating money to update our election machinery so that we have hack-proof machines that cannot be tampered with from the outside and that cannot and that leave auditable trails, which means paper trails. Do you think that that the federal government should mandate this? Because after all, the federal elections are premised on accurate counts in every state and county. Should we mandate, as well as providing the funds for modern election technology, so that we can be sure that no foreign actor is, in fact, phonying up our vote, and perhaps even doing so and leaving no trail that you knew it later?
So woe is me to make a comment about federal and state roles and responsibilities, but here's what I'd say, sir. It is incumbent upon every state to institute the appropriate security measures and make sure that their technology is the most robust available in order to protect the democracy in their election and votes. And I believe that there's a role for the federal government in this space that starts with requiring that vendors follow certain security standards in the production and delivery and maintenance of the equipment that these states are using. So that would thereby standardize at least the security of those systems, everything from auditing and database management to on the back end, should something happen to the systems, being able to report on that.
Obviously, if the federal government mandated that only proper machines could be made, then new purchases would only be of proper machines. In the 5 seconds I've got left, do any of the other witnesses want to comment on whether they think it necessary for the federal government to mandate that existing machines be replaced in time for the next election so that we can guarantee an election undictated from Moscow or someplace else?
We think as the Election Assistance Commission is revising its standards for certification, there's an opportunity there to inject standards for the security of the devices to be certified. And I would caution, though, that we must be careful not to specify specific technological solutions, right, because our enemies move very quickly. We need to be agile in response. But to have basic security guidelines that are part of that certification process would be an advance in the current state and would help us secure our elections.
Thank you.